our beloved Slovenian skier was euphoric with his stage victory, which came bundled with the red jersey, and all thanks to his already legendary competitiveness in a Vuelta where he is already the rival to beat. However, the big controversy of the day came by way of another sport, one possibly much dirtier than cycling: professional tennis. Every X years we have a big scandal in the world of the racket wranglers. First came the TUE of Rafa Nadal. Then there was the doping with horse drugs of Maria Sharapova. And this year it was the turn of Jannik Simmer, who will not be sanctioned, despite being caught doping with clostebol, an anabolic steroid, very fashionable in Italian territory and especially among the transalpine tennis players. You're already seeing what is the latest trend in world sport, as happened with Robert Stannard. You doped, but you can continue practicing your favourite sport, earning huge amounts of money in the process. No wonder Coconut Oil Lopez or Ibai Salas are fighting in court to demonstrate their innocence, when there are so many other athletes who seem to have privileges from corrupt sporting organisations. If you want to know more about cycling and doping, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and, of course, follow us on our new Twitter account, @UncleCycling. Every day, new hilarious facts about cycling will be over there. And now, over here, let's talk about the reason why you came to this video. Our stoner friend, Floyd Landis. For us, the likeable, doped-up Floyd is one of the key figures of 21st century cycling. Without his confessions of doping at US Postal, Lance Armstrong, Tyler Hamilton, George Hincapie, Johan Brunel or Dr. Luis Garcia del Moral, among so many other stars suspended for life, they would never have been caught. Landis is not remorseful. He's simply a vindictive man who holds a grudge, and that always makes him a danger to dopers, and a source of knowledge for those of us who want to fight against doping. One such journalist who's blown the lid off this anti-doping fight of late is Nick Harris of Sporting Intelligence, and he was able to interview the gravel rider's current sponsor, Logan Owen. You can see in these archival images he's elated to be wearing a jersey emblazoned with a CBD company as a sponsor. Landis has followed the line of other doped riders of his time, such as Jesus Manzano or Ivan Mayo, who at the beginning of the year could not understand how in just 15 years cycling had changed so much, even though many people of his time were still involved in the cycling world, and the records that they used to set, totally doped, were now being broken by riders totally clean. It's normal. The Danish anchovy Vingegaard said just a few weeks ago that it was unfair for him and all the other riders in the current peloton to carry the doping baggage of old riders from the past. But if you look at it from the other side, these old riders from the past, they know people who are still inside the cycling world. They're not idiots, and obviously they don't want to be the only ones carrying that burden of the doping bag. Landis is one of them, and he goes further, insisting that doping will never stop, and that much more honesty and transparency is needed. Many will think that he's a hypocrite, and that if he had not been caught, he'd have stayed quiet, quietly licking low-cost Lance's arse. Perhaps they're right, and perhaps they're wrong, but we have to think where those words are being directed, to characters full of corruption, like Selfie Lapation and his acolytes. You see, even two bitter enemies like Armstrong and Landis have a great enemy in common. Of course, Floyd has also wanted to criticise some anti-doping agencies that are corrupt or lazy or simply don't act as they should. No wonder. It must be frustrating to see a former teammate of his, like Roberto Heras, acquitted of his doping charges due to blatant sample errors. Or, watching our videos, see a sports director receiving vials of menotropin, like Ruben Tiago Alves Pereira, not only avoiding sanctioning 2 years later, but winning races in his country, today. Of course, for Floyd, the records that are currently being broken in practically all the races of the cycling calendar are more than a little suspicious. Not surprisingly, since when he made his legendary exploit at Disneylandis, the data generated on that ill-fated day was no better than that of the legendary Disneylandis exploits of the White Kenyan at Finestra, to give a simple example of the continuous attacks that we're seeing today in all types of cycling competitions. In short, for Floyd, there is still doping in cycling, and to solve this problem, it takes people who are really, really interested in anti-doping to prevent it. Now your old Uncle Cycling Highlights is a pauper. Not even the assistance of our friend of the channel, Biano, would help us, because, well, he doesn't give us a single dollar. And so we doubt that we will ever get to be in a position where we're directing the designs of this sport. But Doping Floyd, if you're listening and you want to help us with a donation, you know we are here to listen to you. And now, let's move on to analyse the sad Stage 5 of the Vuelta España 2024. Javier Guillen wants to grill the cyclists in this Vuelta. For if they're not moving extremely suspicious watts on the climbs, it's mainly because of the suffocating heat they have to endure, more than 40 degrees in the south of Spain. The stage starting in Fuente del Maestre, a town where 10 years ago the mayor alerted his neighbours to the arrival of labour inspectors to eliminate their irregular situations. And it ends in Seville, the capital of Andalusia, with the soccer club famous for sanctioned for doping and multiple confessed criminals of recent years. A stage profile that could hardly be any flatter. 177 kilometres that will give us the third duel between the Belgian bot and the newly renewed by the team for hair doping, Caden Groves. They and other sprinters will seek to imitate the legendary Danish doper because, you know, there's always a Dane. In this case, Jesper Skibby. He managed to win on the banks of the Guadalquivir River in the 1991 Vuelta. And so, without further ado, let's proceed to the short summary of a more than predictable stage. Now, the preview and build-up to the stage was more entertaining than the endless dry toast that the cyclists have given us again in the worst first week of a Grand Tour in recent years. On the one hand, we had the riders of the Dinosaur Lefebvre's team changing clothes for the second consecutive day outside their broken-down bus. Today, in the bus of the Burgos team, which is not participating in this Vuelta España, a team known for its individual connections with Dr. Minar and Dr. Solar, as well as begging playstations and signing riders from random countries to fill out the squad. On the other hand, we had the return of the most eagerly awaited summer superhero, Calippo Soler, the Andorran rider fond of scolding journalists who have the audacity to take one of those ice creams that he likes so much, so they can say that cycling has changed since the time of Bach-Montes. The stage was a carbon copy of the previous two, with the now classic Yvon Ruiz of Cairn Farmer, who we imagine will want to appear even more on the channel. He was in the breakaway, and there was another veteran of Euskaltel, in this case the man who only performs in Portugal, Chomin Juaristi. No doubt he's trying to put on a show to attract the eye of Jose Azevedo or Ruben Tiago Alves Pereira, with the hope that they might sign him for the coming seasons. Again, they were 50 minutes late, with the peloton grazing merrily as it went, and so we all waited for the final sprint. But the rider most hated by the cyclists themselves, Rui Costa, he couldn't be part of the mix in the finale. He suffered a totally avoidable fall because of an urban pothole. Again, the Belgian bot launched the sprint, but this time it was not Caden Groves, but rather the young Czech of Sunweb, Pavel Bittner, who took his slipstream and then overtook him on the right, and with a great final stretch, he beat the Rabobank rider by millimetres. Your Uncle Cycling Highlights had already warned you about this man and his summer mutation from a classics rider to a sprinter, and how in just 3 weeks he has achieved his first 3 victories as a professional. As Landis himself said, either Jesus himself descends to dispense justice, or cycling will never change. And while you're here, you could check out that video on the screen. You know you will love it.